his desires. If he does anything that's not within the framework of what he's supposed to, what's proper for him, it's considered a wrongdoing. But because God loved Yosef, he said, I'll teach this lesson to you, not through your own death, but through the death of this baker. Proof text of bringing somebody else in your place. He understood that there are two types of people. The Yehuda, what is Yehuda? It corresponds to the butler. Remember, I mentioned before that Yehuda and King David, they're all kind of the same thing here. King David, he's like the court jester. What is, after all, the butler of the king? He's basically the bartender. He's the guy, he's the DJ. He's the guy who organizes the royal party, the royal balls, with all the dancing girls and all of the sexist. All of the whole party atmosphere which is King David. King David liked a good party, apparently. David, we say about the pouring of the wine, the libations in the temple. They would sing. King David was, after all, a musician. He had great music. He was a psalmist. Truth is, with Yehuda and the story of Tamar, and all of these stories, like I said before, it's all one continuum of the tribe of Yehuda. Hadomos, which are similar to this, they usually have a sexual transgression in them. God placed into these people who fell, so to speak, a desire that was so strong until they didn't have the possibility of overcoming that temptation. The Medrash Bereishis, I've actually looked it up just to make sure I didn't believe it. Did the Medrash really say this? It says there that there's a malach, there's an angel who's in charge of taiva, in charge of desire. Usually they make you the little desire, and you have also another, like a Yetzer Tov, can fight against the Yetzer Hara. You struggle. I do this, don't do it. Okay, I'm not going to do it. But what if that volume of the angel of desire gets so strong, you have no voice, you can't, that other good voice in you that says, now control yourself, doesn't exist anymore. That's what the Medrash Rabbah, the Bereishis Rabbah says. That there's an angel that sends desire to somebody. Usually you can counterbalance it with your free will, control. But this time he was taken away, free will was taken away from him. Therefore it wasn't his sin. He wasn't able to overcome his desire. That's what it means to be like the one. The court jester means, like, I'm saying, I am not me. I am not a proper person in control and always about doing the right thing, that I can do what I need to do and be responsible. I know it's not about me. It's about you, God. It's about the king. It's about, like, I let go of myself to make way just for who you are, and I don't even know who I am. And that God is going to be the one that's ultimately going to prevail. You should be right. I don't need to be right. I need to be right. Right? I don't need to be right. And that's what it says. And now I'm just going to read it in English. I'm not even going to bother with the Hebrew. In Ephraim, the Haftorah talks about the reconciliation between Ephraim, which is the tribe of Joseph, will be reconciled with Yehuda. They won't fight anymore. Now, these two prototypes of people, one representing the halachic observer, Yosef, and the other representing the, impulsive person who is ultimately doing what God wants, even though they seem to not be able to control themselves. But it's Yehuda. It's a person. It's not just any impulsive person. It's somebody who is a great person, and despite their greatness, they've fallen in the way that Yehuda or King David has fallen, but withstand the test of time. Not just in terms of history, but in terms of the value of what it is that they are and have done. After all, history is just written by the winners, so that doesn't necessarily prove anything. But so there's going to be some reconciliation going on, because until now, Ephraim is always about judgment. It's always about the law. And when it talks about violating the Torah, we talk about the house of Joseph having, will be set to flame because they're the ones that get affected by the violation of the law. But Yehuda, on the other hand, is always saying, even if I see what the law seems to say, I want to go straight to God. I want to know the extent of the truth that may not be in the word of the Torah. Because it could be, and this is something that's very important. If there's a case in the halacha where people come to Dayan, they come to the Beis Din, and they say their claims, and there are whatever proofs they bring. It could be halachically, if you were to just follow whatever just happened, you'd make the ruling, Reuben owes Shimon X. What if the Dayan, there's just something, they can't explain what it is, they just don't buy it. It's not because this person is not kosher, it just doesn't smell right. They're allowed to just say, I'm not buying it. What do you mean? The law is the law. The law isn't the law. The law is only the law when you think that's the best you have. You see, any law is imperfect. In the sense that if it's a law bein adam l'chavero, between one person and another person, it's as close as you can get to what's probably right, based on what you know. But what you know is limited. So you say there's eidos, there's testimony. How do you know the testimony is true? I mean, we can go on and talk about however great we can say that the rabbis and the Torah were in terms of verifying something to make sure that they're not killing somebody based on circumstantial evidence. There's Gemara and Makos and Sanhedrin. There's a lot of Talmud on that, but nevertheless, you can't be sure. You can't be sure. But we still have the law. We can't say we can't be sure ever, so we'll never do anything. We have to keep the law. We have to enforce the law. But Yehuda is saying, you know what? Okay, very good. You have to keep the law. I want to know what really happened. I'm not just buying it because it's what the witness says. Now, how does that? Now, that could be the truth about litigation between different parties, warring factions who have different opinions about what happened and who's right, who's wrong. What about halachic observance about the holiday or prayer? What do you have against that? I'll tell you what. You're telling me every time somebody prays halachically correct, they're really connecting to God? Okay, yeah, this is Shavisi Hashem L'Negdi Summit. There's part of the Shulchan Aruch says you actually have to contemplate that, visualize God isn't before you at a certain part of the Amidah, but still, you're just carrying around the burden for the most part when you're daven. You're just trying to be done with your obligation to daven. So this is a teaching that the Seer of Lublin taught, which I'm sure, if I know it now, I'm sure it was fresh in the Meshaloch's mind. He asked a Misnagid, why do Hasidim celebrate Rosh Chodesh and Misnagid don't? So Misnagid didn't have an answer, so he said, I'll tell you what it is. The Seirei Rosh Chodesh, the offerings of Rosh Chodesh, were brought for like a sin that we're not sure about. We may have sinned, we may not have sinned. He said, you know what is the difference between a chassid and a misnagid?